independently decide.
Please tell
what
me you are
documents-
not treating Congress like a criminal
I am-
defense attorney. I am begging you to please tell me that's not what
I'm
you're
not,
doing.
Mr. Gowdy. What I'm saying is basically the discussions that we had as late as last week, I thought we're going towards a creative resolution to this particular issue, what ultimately was going to give the committee the place where they wanted to be on this.
Well,
And I think
but
if
what
we had
I hear
more
the
time, we
chairman
would have been able to get
saying,
there.
what I hear the chairman saying is the place he wants to be is exactly what he asked for. Hence, there really is no more need for negotiation unless you have a legal privilege or some constitutional precept you are standing on to not allow the branch that created your agency to see documents. Then what is the discussion about?
The discussion is about ultimately what is fair to individuals as well. Look, if you have a child come home and basically they do a fender bender, you basically sort of put them on timeout or whatever, and then you ultimately give them the keys back. This is exactly the same situation. We have individuals who have engaged in misconduct, but it doesn't mean necessarily that's the end of their career. They basically continue to go forward, just like we treat our children.
Well,
that's basically what we're talking about.
Don't you think the father of three would be able to appreciate that analogy? Then why can't you give us the documents and then make the analogy?
All right, I got to conclude here with this line of questioning here to tell you how highly offensive it is to you comparing this to a fender bender, okay? When you have 79% of your employees saying they don't believe that the senior management is acting honestly, don't tell me it's some fender bender. This so-called employee number 5, an SES-level employee, transmitted hardcore pornography materials along with racially charged and sexist conduct, and yet he only received a written reprimand. You have another. Here's an email I'm gonna read to you as best I can, and sorry for the nature of this. This is subject, a very talented woman. And remember, this is on government computers between employees. Now this uses the B word, has some talent. Careful where you open this, definitely adult material. And then it goes on. But you've redacted all of this. I can't tell if you're actually taking the appropriate disciplinary process. And don't tell me this is some innocent fender bender where we didn't take away the keys the right way. Get serious, Mr. Doherty. This is serious stuff. And if we can't trust the senior-most people in the Secret Service, you're right. They're going to have to lose their keys to the kingdom. And I don't think you're taking the appropriate disciplinary action, but I want to find out. I want to know. I want to look at those files. And guess what? That's the way the Congress is set up. And when you have more than 10% of your SES employees, 15 and above, that fall into this category, you have a very serious problem. I could go on and on about the serious nature, and when you send me a spreadsheet with 30, and none of them only one of them says it's unsubstantiated, we have the right and the duty and the obligation to look at it. That's what oversight is all about. This committee was formed in 1814. Abraham Lincoln served on this committee, for goodness sake. So unless you have some legal authority, you are putting us in a position that nobody wants to be in. We don't want to have to hold you in contempt. You should cooperate. And of all the things out there, Homeland Security, Secret Service should know, you wouldn't put up with this if you were investigating somebody else and you had a subpoena and you served it on them and they said, give me a moment, I got to cross out a few things because I just want to make it fair. I just want to cross these things out so that, you know, I want to make sure that you get what you need. Are you kidding me? That is not the way this process works. You have a duly issued subpoena. I expect you to comply with it. When will you give me an answer as to whether or not you're going to comply with the subpoena in its totality? Not a negotiation, in its totality. When will I have that answer?
Chairman Chaffetz, I'm not in a position to tell you that.
You knew this question was coming. We told you in advance it's coming. When is it reasonable for me to have an answer to this question?
I think we are working very hard on that at the latter part of last week, and hopefully we can get to a place.
Give me a date.
I cannot give you a date, Chairman Chaffetz. I'm not the decision maker here. But I think
Who's the decision? Going back to what Mr. Cummings says, give me specific names. Who advised you on this question? Who?
Well, it's ultimately.
No, I want to know specifically who did you have a discussion about this with? You're under oath. Give me the answer.
With respect to multiple individuals.
Go ahead. List them out. I got time. Go ahead.
Director Clancy, a number of other individuals.
No, no, name the individuals. You're a smart man, you know these people's names, name them.
The gentleman directly behind me, Mr. Paramore, our counsel, Donna Cahill. Those are the individuals.
Those three, nobody else.
That's what I recall.
Any other, I'm giving you one more chance. Anybody else advise you on how to?
Do not recall, Chairman.
Okay.
This has been a multi-pronged discussion, and I've had multi-pronged discussions with your staff on this issue to try and sort of find a way forward.
Yeah. It's not acceptable. We shouldn't have to wait this long. We're trying to do our jobs, and we're trying to help you to do your jobs. But it requires cooperation. And when I have to get to the point where I have to issue a subpoena, I expect compliance, 100% compliance. Understood?
Understood.
What do you believe Congress does not have a right to see?
I have full respect for the oversight and the constitutional duties of the Congress with respect to that.
So,
Would the gentleman yield for
gentleman
one
from South
second?
Carolina.
Would you agree Congress created the whole Inspector General apparatus? That's not constitutional in nature, it's statutory, right?
I would agree that Congress not only established the IG, they established the United States Secret Service in 1865.
All right. Good point. We did both. So Congress, if they wanted to, could do away with all the Inspector General's next appropriations process. If they wanted to, they don't, but they could, right?
I understand.
So why would Congress have to wait until an Inspector General concludes an investigation before Congress can get in line to gain access to information?
What information are we talking about?
Any information.
Yeah, Gowdy.
It is routine for people to sit at that table and say, we cannot cooperate with an ongoing congressional investigation because there's an ongoing Inspector General investigation.
Why do you get to make that determination?
I'm not making that determination. What I'm saying is basically
The Secret
that
Service, has the Secret Service fully complied with the duly issued subpoena from Congress?
we continue to owe you materials. We have been doing.
When are we going to get it?
Production. Well, first of all, it's been the committee that basically inserted additional document requests that they prioritized
no.
over this. Sitting down with committee staff to try and resolve this issue.
You don't want to go there. Mr. Doherty, you do not want to go there. I want the documents. We have a duly issued subpoena, and I expect you to fulfill it without redactions. If you think there's a justification for redaction, tell me now.
These particular files, and we gave that to you yesterday. We thought that that would help you be able to sort of parse out and target what particular files you particularly want to discuss in more fully in an informed way.
You are making decisions that you should not make. When I issue a subpoena, you should fully comply with it. It's not optional. You don't get to parse it out and hide things. When you have 79% of the Secret Service saying that your senior-most leadership is not honest and trustworthy, we have a problem. Then we're going to go peek under the hood. When you have more than 10% of your level 15, GS 15 and above, who have problematic backgrounds in that they've had to go through investigations of themselves since they've been agents, you have a problem. When you hand us a document with nearly 30 people and only one of them says it's unsubstantiated, we have a problem. When you have Cartagena happen, and there are 8 incidents since Cartagena, and then they continue to get promoted, at least I think it's 5 of them continue to get promoted, we have a problem. We get to do an investigation. So to my original question, what is it you think Congress has no right to see?
Chairman, we're trying to basically sort of lean forward. And I'm looking at the
My simple question is, are you or are you not going to comply with the subpoena?
and that is why we were having a discussion with staff.
I don't want to have a discussion anymore. We've been talking about it for nearly a year. I want the documents. Are you or are you not going to provide them?
And there was discussion on the table in which to accommodate that. But the list that we gave you.
You really want to have you want to talk about the discussion that you proposed?
Would the chairman yield for a moment?
Yes.
Just humor me and give me an idea of what those discussions would be about. What privilege are you asserting that would prevent you from making information available to the entity that created your department, your agency?
So I'm not standing here in a position as an attorney here because I've not served in that role at the Secret Service in a very
Well,
long
that's
time,
okay.
since 2003.
You don't have to be an
So
attorney to
I'm
know
not
why
ass-
you're not turning
I'm
stuff over.
I'm not asserting a privilege, Mr. Gowdy.
Well, if it's not
What
a
I'm effectively
privilege,
doing is having a practical discussion about the information that furthers and advances the committee's oversight.
all right,
And effectively bringing us
but
to a positive.
I want you to hear those words from our standpoint. Let me tell you what I hear when I hear you say that. We're going to decide what we think you need.
And that's not.
So,
that's
but
not-
that's what you just said, that advances the committee's work. We may get to decide what advances our work. Would you give redacted documents if it were a grand jury subpoena or a court subpoena? If that branch of government sought documents, would you go through and redact them before you gave them to a judge?
I think that's a good example.
Abortion as defined under federal law is where a physician partially delivers, usually the trunk and legs of the baby, leaving only the head in the birth canal, and the baby is alive, and then takes an act to kill the baby at that point, usually thrusting scissors into the back of the skull in order to kill the baby, and then completes the delivery. So it's a way of killing the baby when most of the baby is already outside of the womb.
And there were actually people who argued against banning that barbaric practice?
Oh yes. I mean, many of the people we've been hearing from today were big advocates for a continuation of partial birth abortions. They have no respect for human life if they consider it to be unborn, or they want to label it as a fetus. And literally anything is all right as far as they seem to be concerned.
Well, let's go to that point, because Professor Smith seems to draw a line, artificial as it may be, between the humanity owed to a viable fetus and the lack of humanity owed to what she considers to be a non-viable fetus. Who gets to draw that line of demarcation between viability and non-viability?
Well, that's a complex question. Number one, it is a medical determination on whether or not a child is viable, but it's a difficult one, and there are many gray areas. For instance, the statistics are after 20 weeks, 1 in 4 can survive. And we would consider that to mean, therefore, that anyone born at that point in time ought to be considered viable. But many times you just simply don't know until later. I haven't heard any people that work at abortion clinics are able to make that fine and complex medical decision.
No, I think Professor Smith, if I heard her correctly, said that she was not a doctor and it should be up to the doctors to make that determination. Although I did note the irony, it was 9 damn lawyers who came up with that plan, not of one of whom was a doctor. And I also noted the irony of Hank Johnson wondering why there weren't more women on our side of the aisle, when they tend to target those who seek office as Republican women. And there wasn't a single woman on the court when Roe versus Wade was decided, but that doesn't seem to trouble him much either. For those watching at home or here, doesn't civil law recognize the viability of even a pre-viable fetus when it comes time for the plaintiff's attorney to get paid?
There are many instances of cases in various states of wrongful death of the unborn, of criminal laws to punish.
Well, we're going to get to the criminal law in a second. Let's just stick with civil right now. When it comes time for the trial attorney to get paid, we have a different definition of viability, right?
Well, viability is simply not relevant.
Exactly. You can be 2 weeks pregnant, and you have a cause of action on behalf of that unborn child. And our friends on the other side of the aisle, some of whom were plaintiffs' attorneys, have no trouble being paid for the life of that 2-week-old.
Right. The idea of separating, using viability as a standard is really antiquated, and most courts have gone away from that to just simply the point that if the child is alive.
Well, but it's hard to go away from viability when Professor Smith said there's not any humanity owed a pre-viable, she won't say baby, pre-viable fetus.
That's exactly.
Did I misunderstand her? Is there any degree of humanity owed?
Well,
I mean, you've been sitting beside her all morning. Did I miss something? Is there something outside the bounds of decency we really won't allow as long as the fetus is pre-viable?
Well, as I understand her testimony, if a born alive infant is considered to be not viable, then we have a free fire zone. We can do whatever we want. We can kill the life at will, harvest their tissues, whatever the case may be. And of course, the concern about the producing intact infants, which it has been demonstrated in the videos, is of course the possibility that these unborn children are alive. And there's even evidence that one of the intact babies born alive had a beating heart, which is a definition of being alive.
Which is why the videos are relevant to our conversation about partial birth abortion. Mr. Chairman, I'm out of time. I just have two really quick questions for Ms. Smith, which she can answer with a yes or no. Ms. Smith, if we were to double the amount of money available to the providers but give it to someone not named Planned Parenthood, would you be okay with that?
I would have to know who it was going to and whether they were quality.
Anyone not named Planned Parenthood.
Not anyone, no.
Anyone who's qualified to provide services.
If they provide high quality services to low income people in the same way that Planned Parenthood does, frankly, yes, I don't have any.
So you're okay with us defunding Planned Parenthood as long as the money goes somewhere where it can do the most amount of good for the same group of people. Yes. You're okay with Congress defunding Planned Parenthood?
Not in the current environment where there is no one able.
And if there were, would you
what.
be okay with it?
If there were, yeah, it would be a different world, and yes, then you could fund that organization.
So if we can identify service providers that meet that same quality of care, not named Planned Parenthood, you'll support the Republicans in defunding Planned Parenthood?
I don't know that you and I will agree on who those people are, and I would have to.
Sure. How about we just try?
Yeah.
How about why don't we do that?
If you're asking me a hypothetical question, there was
I'll double the money as long as it doesn't go to the folks who donate money to Democrats' Planned Parenthood. We'll double the amount of money available as long as it doesn't go to Planned Parenthood. How's that?
As long as it doesn't go to Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood today is the institution that provides the best, highest quality care to women in this country, across this nation, in cities, in low-income areas where these services are unavailable to them.
They're also the target of videos that are barbaric and heinous and subhuman. So as long as we can get that same level of care and do it through an entity not named Planned Parenthood.
As a very small part of their services, and this is why you oppose them, and that is the only reason you oppose them.
You have no idea why. I was voting to defund Planned Parenthood, with all due respect, Professor, before the videos ever showed up.
I wasn't talking about the videos.
Well, I don't think we know each other well enough for you to assign a motive to what I'm doing.
I think vice versa, and vice versa.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen. Just to